Is being hacked and having your website's content stolen one of your biggest fears of having an online business? Because it does happen. I can remember one particular client several years ago who got their website pretty severely hacked. They came to us for help. We got their website back online, we got it secured back up, and a lot safer. This is one of the things that I love about having our business all these years at BCS Engineering is we help clients' websites live up to their potential and solve hard problems like this. Join me as we discover 5 critical tasks that you should be doing regularly to ensure it is secure, user-friendly, and successful. Welcome to the E-commerce Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Saunders. When we started this business, all I had was a couch, a laptop, and a 9-month-old. My main goal? To help others. Now, with over 20 years in the e-commerce building industry and even more than that in web development, I have seen a lot. I love breaking down the hard tech into easily understandable bits to help others be successful in their online business. Whether you're a seasoned e-commerce veteran or just starting out, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of e-commerce together. In this episode, we'll be discussing what's really important to be doing to your website regularly. First off, we're going to start with security updates. Now, stay with me here as I understand that if you're a non-technical person, the thought of updating your website's security might sound intimidating and overwhelming. However, it's essential to keep your website secure from potential threats and attacks. Just think of it this way. Just like you would lock the doors and windows of your house when you leave to prevent intruders from coming in, updating your website security is the digital equivalent of keeping your virtual doors and windows secure. It protects you from potential hackers and cyber criminals and who they might try to steal your sensitive information or compromise your website's functionality. To break this down for you though, we first need to determine what type of website do you run. Do you have an SaaS or software as a service website, or do you have a downloadable software that you host somewhere? With SaaS or software as a service, you cannot touch the software, you cannot download the software, and you're only able to minimally edit the software. Some examples of this that are very popular right now are Shopify and BigCommerce. Many of our existing clients have what's called a downloadable software too. So they could have an e-commerce platform, or they might have WordPress that is hosted somewhere. So some of the popular downloadable e-commerce platforms would be like Magento, OpenCart, or Xcart. They could be hosted with us, or they could have this website hosted somewhere else too. So in the first case, software as a solution, you don't need to be worrying about the security updates because that's part of the service that you are paying for. But if you have a downloadable website, like an e-commerce system that's downloadable, or WordPress, or any other downloadable content management system, that is something you're going to want to make sure you're updating regularly. In our show notes, I'll go into a little more detail on resources on how to do this. But I am going to go into a little bit of a tangent on WordPress, because about 50% of the websites out there are running WordPress, and likely you are too. WordPress is pretty easy to keep up to date in general. You just need to make sure you're regularly updating the core software as well as its plugins. I do recommend doing this at least weekly. One catch though, as you might need to pay attention to when the software plugin was last updated. Many times will find that a developer has abandoned a plugin. So for example, if you see that the plugin hasn't been updated in 6 months or more, it may be time for you to pick a different alternative plugin that gives you the same features because it sounds like that plugin has been abandoned and is not getting any security updates at all. And the reason that we're talking about this, and I know it can seem kind of techy and overwhelming, but again, visit our show notes for a bit more details to walk you through this, is because in over 20 years of working with websites and e-commerce, we have yet to see a website get hacked that was completely up to date on its security updates. It's a super easy and preventable way to stay more secure. Now, if you are not able to handle this yourself, you can just make sure that your web developer is handling this for you. But I totally recommend that you have somebody handling security updates. Now, we do have to go on a little bit of another tangent here, as if you have a downloadable software package too, you need to also make sure that the hosting environment is getting regular updates. That should be something that your host takes care of for you. You do need to check though with your hosting provider because some of them do not include server software updates as part of your hosting packages. This would be called an unmanaged hosting solution and is cheaper than a managed hosting solution. For example, here at BSys Engineering, we have managed hosting solutions. So we do update your server software for you as part of your fee on your hosting. We do run into a lot of clients, though, like I said, that don't have a managed hosting environment. And so they're stuck needing to update PHP, Apache, MySQL, etc. And if you don't know what those words are, don't worry about it. Just contact your hosting provider and make sure they're updating your server software. That's all you got to really ask for. So hopefully that breaks down simple steps you can do to stay more secure with your website. And in the show notes, like I mentioned, I'll be sure to include recommended action steps as well. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is a little bit techy too. It's a shorter topic to talk about, but it's super important, and it's backups. Now, I know backups may not sound like the most exciting topic, but trust me, they're essential for any website owner, even if you're not a tech whiz. Think of backups as an insurance for your website. Just like you wouldn't want to drive a car without insurance, you don't want to run a website without backups. So let's dive in and make sure you understand what they are and what you can do to make sure you have this set up. So first off, do you know, is your host creating backups for you? Is it regular? How often? These are questions you need to be asking. They should be backing it up at minimum every day. They need to be backing up your files as well as your database. And your database is where your data is stored in your website. So for your e-commerce system, it's where your orders and your customers and products are stored. If you're using like WordPress, it's where your blog posts and your pages are being stored. And for many hosting companies, this is an extra fee to do this. So make sure you double check with them. Not only do we recommend that your hosting company should be backing up your site, we also recommend that you should pull down a regular backup yourself. Now, you could maybe do this one more like once a week or every couple weeks, but this is true whether you have a downloadable software, such as a SaaS solution. So if you're unsure how to do this, we'll provide some guidelines in our show notes. But the reason I say this is we've had clients that we've worked on that have come to us that their server crashed. I mean, completely crashed. And their host had no backups at all. Luckily, we had worked on their site and pulled down a full copy of their website because sometimes we're super thorough and we'll pull down a full copy to have as a backup. And we were able to bring them back up. Now, it was an old state, of course, because they'd have been like a month or two, but at least they didn't have to start from scratch. So could you imagine if you lost all your customer information? Which is one of the reasons I talk about backups. It's just so important. This is your livelihood, and this is one of the most important things you need to be doing. So make sure you're protecting your data. Again, if you get confused on any of this tech, we're going to break it down even more in the show notes because we can explain things a little better than on an audio, but I wanted you to make sure that you know about backups. All right, so our third topic is monitoring your analytics. Now, this can kind of sound techy too, but we can really pull back here and make it as simple as you would like. If you're using Google Analytics, which is one of the most popular analytics software out there, of course, you can use it to catch small issues before they become big ones. So you just want to be minimally at least looking at some of the simple reports it provides. For example, is your website's overall traffic trending up? Is it trending down? You don't even need to dig really into the super nitty gritty to see the trends or the details if you don't want to. If you look at overall trends, you can keep it simple and you don't need to look at this daily. It's going to fluctuate, obviously, if you look at it daily. I know our website, for example, gets the highest amount of traffic Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday are pretty slow, and it tends to peak somewhere in the middle of the week between Tuesday and Thursday. If you're looking at it regularly, though, even if it's once a week or once a month, you're going to see trends. If you see an undesirable trend, you can start digging into it or having a web developer help you figure out what might be the issue. The topics we'll be covering in later episodes of our podcast will help you keep up in the upward trend for traffic. If you do want to get in a bit more detail, you can start drilling down into the analytics and start seeing what specific pages are working well and what specific pages are not working well. And then you can take action upon that. If you have a page that you want to rank really well and it's not, then you can take some action steps on that. Again, later in our other podcast episodes, we'll go into more detail on how you can do that on your pages, but I just want to give you a general overview that you're at least looking at your analytics regularly. And being a business owner or website manager, even if you hire a search engine optimization person or you have somebody in-house for this, being the business owner, you should at least be looking at this monthly, just so you got a gut check and a double check. It just should be one of your metrics you're looking at in your business. Number 4 is monitoring your website speed and why it's important to monitor it. I know the idea of monitoring your website speed may sound a bit intimidating, but trust me, it's not as complicated as it may seem. Think of website speed as a highway that leads to your website. The faster the speed, the smoother the ride for your visitors. If your website's slow, it can frustrate your visitors and even cause them to leave before they find what they're looking for. That's why it's important to keep an eye on your website speed and make sure it's running smoothly. In the show notes, I'll link to 3 common websites you can use for free to track your website speed. GTmetrix is one of them, also Web Page Speed Test, and Google has one as well. Honestly, I kind of like using all 3 of them. They give you a better picture and they each show you something different. And all you have to do is put in your website's URL in one of these tools, and it will give you the ratings and scores based upon what the tool experiences as it crawls your website. Now, obviously, fixing the issues may be very technical depending upon what they are. You can get someone such as ourselves or another web developer if you don't know how to fix the website issues, but it is worth you doing this and monitoring it. It will help provide a pulse on your website and online business. Now, for example, we had a customer just a few weeks ago come to us and said that their website speed had gone down and that they were getting alerts from Google that their website speed was too slow. They actually were hosted with us and are very long-time customers of ours. Do you know what it was? It was their images. They had uploaded new banner images to their website that were way too large for the web. Well, not way too large, but too large. How about that? So it could be as simple as just some new banner images that you put up that are slowing down your website. And you wouldn't know it if you're not at least checking in on your website speed. It's something very easy to do to create a great graphic that you put up on your website and you forget to optimize it for the web. It's so easy to do. But if you're monitoring your website speed once a month, maybe every 2 weeks, depends on how much you really update your website, you're going to catch something like that before Google sees it potentially and before your rankings drop because your website's too slow. And we'll be talking more about search engine optimization later and other websites, but that's just a little hint that website speed does affect your search engine optimization. All right, so last but not least is updating your content. Now, websites aren't a set it and forget it type of deal. It doesn't matter if you're selling what you're selling or if you're selling services or what you're promoting. You need to be updating your website content regularly. Regularly for you could be once a month, or I really recommend leaning more towards once a week if you can. But updating your content is going to help you in so many areas. It's going to help you with search engine optimization. Google, Bing, and all the major search engines want to see a website that is not stagnant. They want to see a website that is getting new content. This is one way to determine if a site is still relevant. Also, as a customer, if I go to a website that I've never been before, I don't know the company, I don't know if I should trust the company, I'll see if they have any updates to their content in the website recently. And if they haven't had updates in months or so, I won't have much confidence in that website or that company. Or you won't even know if they're still in business. I will have much more confidence if I see a website that is updated regularly. So not only does it help you with search engines, but it also helps you with customer confidence and engagement. So I highly recommend that you are updating your content very regularly. All right, so let's recap what we discussed today. First of all, I know the most techie one, security updates. I highly recommend security updates if you have downloadable software. WordPress, especially once a week. It's a high target software only because it's just so popular. And some of the other downloadable software like e-commerce ones do not have updates quite that frequently, but I do recommend you getting on their newsletter so you can get their security updates. All right, so number 2, make sure your website's being backed up by your host and by you. It's a simple task. You set it off, you make sure your host is backing up, and then you put it on your task list at least once a month, maybe twice a month, backing up your website, then you're good to go. All right, and then monitoring your analytics. Again, here, I think once a month is minimum. If you're more active, if your website's a bit more active and more changing, I would look at it a little bit more often than that. Daily, I think, would be too often. I feel like as a business owner, that's a bit of a waste of time and just busy work because daily fluctuations are just too frequent and you really need to look at trends. All right, and number 4, monitoring your website speed. Again, once a month is probably good here. Every couple of weeks if you update your content a lot, but you just need to make sure you're keeping a pulse on this. And finally, number 5, updating your content regularly. I recommend a minimum once a month. Every week would be great, or every other week would also be good too. But just make sure that you have a schedule and that you're updating it with fresh new content so you can stay relevant to search engines and to your customers. That's it for this week's episode of E-Commerce Made Easy. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can get the latest episodes where we'll be going deeper into many of these topics as well as other topics related to e-commerce and websites. Be sure to visit our show notes at ecommercemadeeasypodcast.com. See you next week.